So here's my clock spring. Made sure to tie it up with a couple of pieces of wire so it didn't lose its clock, because right now the wheels on the truck I took it off of were straight when I removed it, so everything should be good to go right back into mine. You got to make sure on these that you get all of the harness. There's a lot more than I thought. Find out what the hell I do with this thing, because this was around the key, and the wire actually goes into the big plug back here. So you got all of this stuff. Three different connectors that you got to get, as well as this. And so we shall see. The reason I'm doing this is the steering on my truck's always been really, really stiff, but I've never driven another four-wheel drive of this era, so I don't know if that's normal. I'm assuming it is. I've driven a couple of two-wheel drives, and theirs is much, much freer, but I can't find any binding anywhere in the system, and I've replaced just about everything. The only thing I can find is that under here, when you're turning the wheel, occasionally it will click and clank and click and stick, and it sounds like it's coming from the clock spring. So since I've checked everything, all of the U-joints and everything else all the way down to the wheels, everything's good. I'm going to see if I can replace the clock spring. First thing you got to do, because of those wiring harnesses, is you got to take this panel down, because that is these connectors here, this one and this one, are the two that have to go with it. This one is also attached to something up there, I don't remember exactly what, but these are the two that have to come off. So I'm gonna have to get creative there, because I was able to just cut a few things on the donor car to get this out. The next thing you got to do is pull this off, which is 3 Phillips head screws. You want to be careful with that, because they screw into this top piece and you can break those off. The top piece isn't going to come off easily because of the key. I don't really know how to take that off to get it off, but it's not, I don't think, that big a deal once you get in it. So we're going to get that off with a Phillips, and then we're going to start working on the steering wheel. Something I almost forgot, this stupid thing has to come off as well, and it's just screwed into the little bracket back there, but that thing is tight. I don't know how they did it. When I first took that thing off for some reason a while ago, I don't remember exactly what I was doing. I think when I was trying to troubleshoot this sticking, it was brutal. All right, now, I mean, I down there had to put a pipe wrench on it. Now it's not so bad because I've broken it loose. I guess they put some serious Loctite on that thing for whatever reason, but yeah, see, it just unscrewed into this thing here, and you can see the crud on it. I don't know what that is, but now I got the whole thing is loose. So you can kind of see in here, this is the wiring harness. This is the one you don't need to touch, but so that's all going to have to come out, because this is the back side of the clock spring right here. So the next thing we're going to do is pull the steering wheel off, which is actually fairly simple. You got to take the airbag out first, and there are a couple of I think 8mm screws that hold the airbag in behind these little plates here that just pop off with a screwdriver. So that's next. Alright, so like I said, there's just a couple little 8mm bolts that go in here from the back side, and that's where you get at them. They screw in here and over here. There's your airbag. And the horn. So this wire, I probably ought to not be doing this hot, but I want to be able to move the shifter if I need to, but oh well, if it blows up it'll make for good TV. This must be the horn, and then this yellow wire, which is the one that comes off the clock spring, is the airbag. So we're going to undo the horn first, and then see if we can. There it is. Let's see if that was the horn, and it was. All right. As you can see, that's just a pretty easy clip. And now this thing looks like it comes out of here. but I can't tell that it does. So it actually has to be disconnected here, down here, which is actually a fairly simple squeeze. Squeeze and disconnect. And now you got something you can play a joke with your friends on. I don't recommend it. These ain't cheap. And this one isn't made by Takata, so it actually works. They're fairly heavy. So now that we got that off, we got this disconnected, you got one more little plug right here, which is just to squeeze it and pull it apart, and that runs all your switches. And I was pretty surprised that the number of steering wheels that I found in the yard that had all of these little wirings, all these setups removed. Apparently that's a common failure point. This one here, knock on wood, everything still works. So the next thing you got to do, as you can see, this is what thwarted me the first time I tried this, is that's a big honking Torx and it's tight. And then there are flat spots up under here and up under here where you set your puller up and pop this thing off. So that's what we're going to do next. All right, so what we got is we got a big old impact Torx. Fits right in there. My impact wrench. Well, guess you didn't really need it, but it did have Loctite on it. The one at the junkyard came off real hard compared to that. And now we got to get set up with the new puller. So since I'm an idiot most of the time, and this wheel's straight right now, but I never know what's going to happen, so I've marked a couple of little index marks on that thing to hopefully set it up so I can get it back to where it was. This is the puller that you need for this thing, is something like that. Probably a standard 2-jaw puller would probably work, but you know, because it goes into the little flat spots right there. Crank that right down. Snug her up. Grip her together. And see how she does. Come on, baby. And there she goes. That's why you need a puller. That is something. And the puller, the standard cheapo puller that you can rent at AutoZone doesn't come with these. It just comes with stuff that's supposed to thread into here somewhere, but I guess like most steering wheels, but of course Ford being what it is, doesn't have any threaded holes in the steering wheel housing. So when that comes off, snake your wire back through there, and there's your steering wheel. Set it in the pile, and there's the clock spring. So now, before I get any further into this damn thing and make a completely unrecoverable mess, I'm going to take my other one and compare it. Attachments are the same. They appear to be 14A664FF. Slightly different number, but very close. And what you got on the back side is 2 pins here, and then just 2 locking clips. This thing just pushes on and clips. This back housing is this here. It just clips over the mount back there. There's no screws, no nothing holding this thing in. And this does not unplug because that's all part of your clock spring in there. So we're gonna have fun. Oh, look at that. Huh. Well, there's that piece. And of course, like every other plastic bit on this car, it was broken. So glad I saved it. That's interesting. And obviously it has something to do with the door dinger. So maybe I won't hook that back up. So now, yeah, I'm gonna Okay, good. That the one of the access points to pop it off is up top, and the other one is at the bottom right here. And oh, look at that! I didn't realize that. Okay, they actually have points where you can put a little screwdriver through it here, and a screwdriver, or it's probably a special tool, I'm sure, that goes through that and actually opens that up to pop it out. Oh, that's pretty cool. All right, that's really neat. I didn't realize that before. You go in through where I've tied it, and you can actually pop that out and pull it straight out. So we're going to attempt to do that once I get all these silly wires unhooked from the back. And the problem is, as you can see, these are the main harnesses. They are not the plug-ins. So the plugs go out the back, which is really annoying. But that's what we're going to try to do right now. Okay, so I was able to disconnect them from the wiring harnesses. The smaller one is pretty easy. It's just a pinch and it pulls out, as you can see, maybe. The big one's a little more difficult because it has two, as you can see, connectors that have to be pried, but you can kind of get this one with your hand while you pop this one with a screwdriver, and then the back side pulls off. So, and like I said, this wire, not sure what it goes to, but it's got its own plug and you can leave it. The other thing you can see is these silly little alligator connectors here. That's where the cable is actually run through. There's one there and there's one up under here. And so just to make sure you get that back where you want it when you're done. There it is. Okay. What you're going to see is a big greasy ass mess when I get this thing out, because I've been trying to lubricate it to stop the clicking and clanking and clunking, because this is a pain. So we're going to set this down. Let's see if we can show you how this thing comes out. I'm going to try to use the little screw tabs. There, so you just kind of stick it in there and it pops. Same thing with that. There it is. And when you're removing it, keep some pressure on it, because your alignment for here is critical. If this thing gets screwed up by a half a turn or a turn, you're going to break stuff when you put it back in, because it'll turn too far when the steering wheel turns. So now that's it. Nothing really on the back side. You can see those two pins. Everything else. What in the hell is that? Wow. So we're going to take a little look around in there while I'm at it, because I've never really looked in here before. And here's something else interesting. If you can see that pink, the one I took this off of had that as well. I don't know what that's for. Maybe just I mean, I really don't know why that's there. But the one I took it off also had pink paint underneath where the pin is, and that's where these two centering pins go, and it just slips over the steering column like that. So I'm going to clean that up a little bit, tie this down. I'm going to save this till I make sure my new one works, and then when I'm sure that all of the functions are there, we're going to take this apart and see if I can figure out what's wrong with it. Alright, so here's something kind of interesting. This piece is related to the locking mechanism. You see it moves. So it's got some factory grease on it, so I greased it a little bit more. Clean this up. You don't have to go this far, but the whole bottom cover and kind of doing this to the top cover, if you ever have to replace your multi-thing switch here with your wipers and your indicators and all that other headlights, this is what you'd have to do, because the screws come out here and the connector is in the back. So that's a pretty similar process before you get to the point of pulling the steering wheel. Here's something else that's kind of cute. See that little thing move? And then the clock spring also is what indexes to move that. So if you ever have a problem with that thing not returning, it's probably that little piece that's broken. You need yourself a new one of these. So now we're going to try to get the new clock spring on without totally screwing it up. And there she is, as you can see, top. It feels better than the other one, so that's interesting. I guess we'll try to snake these through there, since that's where we know they go. Alright, and the pins are right here. And there. And she is on. And she's clipped. So, now we're going to attempt, a little light on it, down here maybe, we're going to attempt to reconnect these wires. This is going to be tough. Now, I'm sure that has something to do with the key in the ignition dinger, but I can't see exactly what's going on in there. So I'm going to tape that up and tuck it away back there, because I don't care. She's just going to get tucked away. Sure everything goes back the way it's supposed to. Looks like it does. Alright, so now I guess the next step is put the steering wheel back on, run the airbag connector back through here, and that can get plugged back in. Alright. And now we're going to put the screw back on. Hopefully this pulls it down. I expect that it will. Yep, it did. We'll see. Alright. Now we're going to put the airbag back in. Try not to blow myself up. If I do, this will be funny as hell for everybody. If I don't. Alright, that's connected. Now we'll connect the horn. Maybe. Test it. Sorry, dog. Puppy don't like that. And set her back in. Okay, now I'm just going to put this thing back together as much as I need to, so I can take it out for a test and check that the cruise control works. And if it does, we'll finish putting it back together, and then we're going to test, take the old one apart. And so that did actually work. All my cruise control buttons work. The horn obviously works. We already tested that. I don't recommend trying to drive the truck with that shit all disconnected, because that's difficult. But so now I'm going to start putting the rest of it all back together and rewiring all my electronics so that we got something that's functional. And then we're going to take the old one apart, because it does feel not really any, maybe a little less stiff, maybe a little bit, but it does feel better. It doesn't click, doesn't clank, doesn't creak. So hopefully this is going to make this thing a little bit better to drive. Alright, so here's the broken clock spring. Ain't much to it. After 260 some odd, almost 260,000 miles. It doesn't feel bad. Yep, nope, that was... I have no idea. Oh. Well, they don't come apart. Huh. Aha. Oh. This is most likely what actually triggers the turn signals. I'll be damned if I know what was going on. But she sure was crunchy before. Aha! That's how that comes off. Now you can see what you got. And that's what it is. It's a giant wire with your connections in it. So, I have no idea. I don't know. Maybe there wasn't anything wrong with it. Junk now. But anyway, we will see if that helps my clicky steering issue. The only thing I could think it might be is this. This is apparently what turns on and off the or turns the turn signals off. That's what catches that little knob. But I don't know. We'll see. That's what a clock spring is, and that's how you change it.